Hey guys, let's check out how to play the newest character in Reverse1999, Rubuska.
Anyone queasy seeing blood? Feel like making some new pointy-toothed friends?
We have already established that Rubuska can be played in the Bloodtithe team, but should rather be played in the Ultimate Archetype team together with Regoletta, Getian and Melania. In order for us to understand how Rubuska actually works, we have to take a look at her signature ability, her unique ability called Shadow Friend. Shadow Friend is a buff that is applied to ourselves and to our entire team at the start of the round. This leads to our entire team losing a certain amount of HP at the start of the round. Not only does this fill the Bloodtithe, but we accumulate additional points called Shadow Cloak. Accumulating these Shadow Cloak points increases our critical damage and our ultimate might. Each of our teammates can only store up a certain amount of those Shadow Cloak points. And here comes a very important and interesting part, because whenever an ally reaches the full capacity of those Shadow Cloak stacks, Rubuska gains a Moxie. More onto why this is so incredibly important in just a second when we hop into battle. A little bit of a side note here is that Rubuska can reserve up to 3 access Moxie, but that is not too much of a big deal. Her insight number 3 says, when we enter the battle, we grant all of our allies a revive. A very big reason as to why we would play Rubuska in the first place, and a very big part of her kit, is the following. After an ally is attacked, we heal our entire team by a pretty significant amount, and we can do so 3 times every single round, which means we are AP friendly and we do never need to use an incantation of ours in the first place. Now of course we have to still look into our incantations, although they are not too important. Her incantation number 1 is simply another mass heal. In case our passive heal wouldn't be enough, we can slide this one in. Additionally, we accumulate additional Shadow Cloak points with both of our incantations in fact, but don't worry about this too much. Her incantation number 2 is a 1-target attack that deals reality damage. It dealing reality damage is actually something that matters because of Getian. You know the entire story about that. You can increase this damage by increasing Rubuska's maximum amount of HP. Then we have her ultimate ability, which is a very important part of her kit as well. What it does is it takes all the accumulated points of Shadow Cloak from our entire team and transfers those onto our main DPS. That of course leads to us buffing our main DPS by a quite significant margin, because our main DPS now gets all the critical damage and all the ultimate might that we accumulated through these Shadow Cloak points, all for himself from the entire team. With all of this knowledge established, it's now time to hop into battle. We will start off playing the Bloodtithe team, but no worries, I will cover the Ultimate Archetype team as well after we are done with Bloodtithe. Now, remember what I told you about the Shadow Cloak points, right? And everyone can hit up to a certain capacity. Now, every time one of our characters reaches their capacity of Shadow Cloak points, Rubuska gains a Moxie. You can do the math for yourself here. We accumulate enough points to fill this cap in the very first turn. That would lead to Rubuska gaining 4 Moxie, correct. Now you would come to the logical conclusion that in the very first turn you should accumulate an additional Moxie with Rubuska by using one of her incantations, so that she has her ultimate available at round 2. And that is not true. That is because you will not gain access to your ultimate on round 2, even if you have 5 Moxie. That is because of the point in time where the 5 Moxie would be accumulated for Rubuska, we would have already drawn our next hand. Therefore, we wouldn't draw additional cards, and therefore, we would not gain access to Rubuska's ultimate, even though we have 5 Moxie. I will demonstrate this to you right now. Channel right, it doesn't matter. We're gonna use one incantation with Rubuska for the 5th Moxie. And now, watch and see that we do not draw into Rubuska's ultimate in round 2. And then I'm gonna show you how you play the first 3 turns instead, right? I just wanna make sure that you do not fall for this mistake right here. So you will see we already drawn our hand right now, but the accumulated 4 Moxie happens right there, right after everyone has already done their attacks. That is when the 4 Moxie, through the accumulation of points, of Shadow Cloak points happen. It is too late. We have already drawn. And therefore you can see we have 5 Moxie with Rubuska, but we do not have her ultimate in our hand. So that's how that works, and that's not how we're gonna play this. So let me restart the battle and walk you through the correct rotation instead. So in the first turn, we do not need to accumulate an additional Moxie with Rubuska. This leaves us free. And you know how this goes, I hope. We buff Nautica with Semmelweis. We start channeling with Sentinel to accumulate bullets, which then buff Nautica. Cool. After that, we gonna attack with Sentinel so that she applies the fresh wound. And then we gonna activate the counter through or with Nautica. That is the setup for our first turn. Thanks to us having the bullet and the fresh blood from Semmelweis and activating 2 channels, the fresh wound, we accumulate as much damage output, of course, and also our Bloodtithe fills significantly faster now. The very second turn now matters, because this is the turn where you want to accumulate this 1 more Moxie with Rubuska, so that on turn 3 we get access to her ultimate, right? Okay, we always want to do this by attacking with Rubuska, actually. Cool. We do not use the ultimate for Nautica this turn, because we want to wait until we have access to Rubuska's ultimate to buff Nautica as much as possible. So on this turn 2, our aim is to not only accumulate the last Moxie for Rubuska, but also accumulate as much Bloodtithe as possible for turn 3, because turn 3 is now where we're gonna use Nautica's ultimate. A little bit of a side note here, keep in mind that this is only for prolonged battles. If you face like piss easy content, then you're gonna go for the rotation on turn 2 and end the battle right there, right? This is for prolonged battles, like fights in the Raries in the rain, etc. Maybe even push your damage output in Main's Bulletin, if that is something that you care for. So again, on turn 2, the first thing that we ever gonna do, of course, is to apply the array with Semmelweis by using her ultimate. Then we want to attack with Rubuska for the Moxie, and after that we want to attack now, since we already channel our counter, and this attack grants us another buff called Adversity. We want to use this, we want to have this for round 3, so we're gonna do that. Now, whatever would give us the most amount of Bloodtithe, we're gonna use that, and that is always gonna be Nautica, so we're gonna go ahead and use our second incantation with Nautica as well. And that way, we will have maximized our damage output on turn 3 as much as we possibly could have. Now on turn 3, we will have access to Rubuska's ultimate, and I'm gonna walk you through how the rotation on turn 3 there works. Now you can see, take a look, if our opponents actually attack us, every time they attack us, like this, Rubuska heals. And Sentinel counterattacks, of course. If they attack again, like this, Rubuska heals. Boom. And she can do this 3 times per turn. Cool. Now comes the turn number 3. You can check. Do we have the bullet with Nautica? Yes, we do. Now, sometimes you will have 2 bullets, sometimes you will have only 1 bullet. This is why you should check what is actually the case. Now we have 1 bullet. That means that before we use the ultimate with Nautica, we do not want to use any other incantation with her, because that would eat up the bullet. But we want the bullet to apply to our ultimate. We can see we still have the fresh blood buff, excuse me, from Semmelweis. Splendid. We have max point of Shadow Cloak. Okay, now we can go. We transfer all the buffs on our entire team to Nautica. You will see here. Let me show you this. Full stacks of cloak, whatever, of these cloak points for Sentinel. Here, same applies to Semmelweis. And same will also apply to Rubuska, as you can see right here. Oh, I misclicked. Okay, transfer the buffs, use Rubuska's ultimate onto Nautica. Then you can go ahead and accumulate as much Bloodtithe as you possibly could, but while not using Nautica, as we figured we only have 1 bullet. And here you can like look if we look at my hand right here, there is no way I accumulate more Bloodtithe, right? Because I don't have any incantations with Sentinel. So remember that Rubuska can store up Moxie, up to 3 Moxie in fact. And in this very specific case, we can already start doing that. And after we did all that, we can use Nautica's ultimate at the end of our rotation. The best case scenario here would have been to accumulate more Bloodtithe. So in case that would happen to you, you can decide to use Rubuska to gain access Moxie, because she can do that. But if you want to play it like perfect, you reset and you want to gain your hands onto incantations that you can use with Sentinel. Unfortunately, that didn't quite happen here either. So yeah, I'm gonna restart the channeling because I don't have an attack incantation, and I'm gonna get 1 access Moxie with Rubuska there instead. Best case scenario is use the attack incantation with Sentinel, or in case you play Eternity, use Eternity as much as possible for the Bloodtithe generation, right? You get the point. But you know, this is a very good scenario, because if things don't play out like perfectly, then you can remember that Rubuska can store access Moxie. And yeah, of course, like with this team, we are 1 turn slower, quote unquote, because we use Nautica's ultimate at turn 3 and not at turn 2. But on turn 3 we are way stronger because of Rubuska's ultimate, and because we had 1 more turn time to accumulate more Bloodtithe. That makes Nautica's ultimate hit harder, even though it comes 1 turn delayed. But this is the best strat that you can go with the Bloodtithe team right now for prolonged battles. And then on turn 3 you repeat, right? From this turn on, you will always check, do you have the bullet? Yes, because we reapplied the channel with Sentinel last turn. Do we have fresh blood? No, this ran out. So we know this turn we're gonna rebuff Nautica with fresh blood. Now we have Sentinel's ultimate available. Sentinel's ultimate deals more damage depending on how many stacks of fresh wound Sentinel has. We can see she has 18. That is pretty goddamn good, right? But since we now have her incantation, number 1, I think it is the attack incantation. We can use that because that gives us another stack of fresh wound. And once we have applied as many stacks of fresh wound to Sentinel, we want to use her ultimate. So that is what we're gonna do. But remember, first you buff Nautica, then you open up the array with Semmelweis, then you attack with Sentinel, and then you're gonna use Sentinel's ultimate. And next turn you gonna apply as much or accumulate as much Bloodtithe as possible, and then use Nautica's ultimate again. So rule of thumb is, every time you have Nautica's ultimate in your hand, you're not gonna use it that turn right away. That turn is used to accumulate Bloodtithe and reapply buffs. And then next turn you're gonna use Nautica's ultimate. So every second round, except for the beginning of the battle where you use it on turn 3. So use it on turn 3, turn 5, 7, 9, right? You get the point. And this is how you play Bloodtithe together with Rubuska in it. See, Rubuska herself doesn't actually do very much on her own, but she still does change the rotations because of the importance of her ultimate. And that's gonna be about it. We can now jump into the ultimate archetype team and see how things play out there. And here we have it. Now it's time to check out the ultimate archetype team together with Rubuska. Now, of course, it's gonna be a very similar story that you're always gonna wait until you use your ultimate up with your main DPS until Rubuska's ultimate is ready, right? You gotta delay yourself by like a turn, maybe even 2 sometimes. You just gotta know how to play this ultimate archetype team, and then you're gonna be fine regardless. In case you're wondering like, hey, how are the rotations exactly looking, I have videos about all of this. I covered the ultimate archetype team with Getian, without Getian, instead of Recoleta I used Centurion, and so on and so forth. You can find all the information that you might want or might need on my channel. So we're gonna start off with Melania's ultimate by using the precast incantation from Recoleta. Then we're gonna start channeling with Getian. We're gonna apply Passion Drain to our opponent, and we're gonna soak this Passion Drain up together with Recoleta, of course. Now that we have spare AP, we can use an incantation with Rubuska. It is kinda useless. We just established that we would want to use an incantation with Rubuska on turn 2. So instead, I will just go and use Melania's ultimate instead. That way I have already used Melania's ultimate up twice, and it makes me like a turn faster, at least in that regard when it comes to applying fixed plans.
Do I have to do this?
So again, like accumulate as you know how this goes, right? Accumulate as much Moxie as you possibly can with Recoleta. Make sure that you never use Recoleta's ultimate unless your Moxie storage is completed. Then on turn 2 we're gonna start channeling with Getian, of course, by using his ultimate. Now we wanna attack once with Rubuska for the extra Moxie that we're gonna apply. Then Passion Drain, attack with Recoleta.
The Bagua drown on the sign brick never warns about its changes.
And here you can see, now we have Rubuska's ultimate ready, and this is where we want to use it. We don't want to use it right away. Usually we would like to get more attacks out with Recoleta, so let's see if we can reroll and get a little bit of lucky. We would want to apply Passion Drain and then attack with Recoleta first to establish ourselves even more Moxie. So Passion Drain, attack with Recoleta, ultimate from Rubuska onto Recoleta, and Recoleta ults. This is how it goes, right? So you see that every time, no matter in what team you actually play Rubuska in, it is always going to be a team that ends the battle, most battles, most content in the game, and on turn number 3. If that shall not be the case, because you kill the enemies and there are like additional enemies that spawn, right? Same story as we had in the battle with the Bloodtithe team, then you're just gonna continue and like recycle, like do your rotations all over again and again and again and again. See that you get Moxie onto Recoleta as fast as you possibly somehow can. Remember that every time you use an ultimate with an ally, that accumulates also Moxie for Recoleta. And then again, it's always the same story. Passion Drain, attack with Recoleta, accumulate Moxie. Once you have accumulated the maximum amount of Moxie, you're gonna use Recoleta's ultimate. The only time where it truly matters that you use Rubuska's ultimate first is that turn 3. By the way, this is a quote-unquote mistake that I see people make with Recoleta, that they do not aim at excess Moxie, but always do that. That is a luxury that you have, and for Recoleta that is like a dream come true. Never pass out on that. So you know the rotations, right? Turn 1, 2, 3, Moxie on Recoleta as much as possible, get the combo done with Rubuska's ultimate into Recoleta's ultimate, use Gatian's channeling, both of them, use fixed plan like the ultimate with Melania, right? Stack that fixed plan, Rubuska's ultimate onto Recoleta, as I said many times, and yeah, you're gonna be fine. You will have nothing to worry about. Apply the Passion Drain and use it up with Recoleta. That was about it, guys. Let's go and take a look at Rubuska's Resonance and her signature Psychube real quick. To round it all up and make it complete, let's talk about her signature Psychube and her Resonance as well real quick. For her Resonance, the best thing that you can do is go for the special piece here called Overindulgence. You want to get as much HP out of your Resonance as possible and additionally gain some damage taken reduction. That is gonna be your best bet. The most important part is the HP. Let me tell you and show you why that exactly is, because the most important thing for us is to increase the passive heal that we do 3 times every single turn. And you can see here that after an ally is attacked, Rubuska restores HP to all allies based on her own max HP. The higher our max HP is, the more healing we gonna get done onto all of our allies. That is why with our Resonance we aim for as much HP as possible, and then adding some damage taken reduction and some resistances onto it synergizes perfectly fine. And this is why I found this setup of Resonance patterns here to be the most efficient. If you want to use this one as well, I'm gonna leave a link to that in the description of this video. Then her signature Psychube, you can buy this in the shop. It has the picture of Rubuska on it, so that is obviously gonna be what she uses. What it does is that it gives you HP, first of all, flat HP, because that's the most important thing. Everything that Rubuska does is based on how high her own max HP is. And then when entering battle, if you are from the military fighters, which you are, you gain healing done plus 12. Perfect. HP and healing done, both combined into one Psychube. That is perfection. Whenever an ally takes damage, they gain ultimate might plus 2. That is exactly what we're gonna aim for, and this is already what our ultimate does as well. So it all comes together and synergizes perfectly here. Additionally, whenever an ally takes damage, right, then the ultimate might of that ally is increased and he receives a heal due to our beautiful Inside. I have almost forgotten to talk about her portraits, so let's go over them real quick. Her portrait number 1. Her ultimate duration is increased from 1 round to 2 rounds, and conversion rates here are increased. For example, the transfer ratio from these shadow cloak points is increased from 20% to 35%, and the damage bonus conversion is increased from 80% to 100%. The duration increase, that doesn't really matter at all. It's pretty much completely useless. Otherwise you would be using her ultimate in the wrong way, which is not something that you would or should ever do in the first place. And then, yeah, increasing the conversion rate or the damage conversion rate that you are granted to 100 from an 80, it's not bad, right? But it is very lackluster. It's mid at best. It is not a portrait where you would go like, oh, I need this is insane, this is very, very mid. So the investment for this portrait would not be worth it. And this goes on for her portrait number 2 as well. Then her portrait number 3 is complete garbage. And her portrait 4, this is the portrait that you really want, and this is like insane, you know. The healing that you do 3 times every single round is increased from 12 to 16. So that would make an increase in healing by 12% every single round. That is the insane one. But to go that far, you would be completely out of your mind. You know what I mean? So portraits for Rubuska, I would absolutely not recommend those at all. They are not complete trash, right? Number 2 and number 1 are decent, but not worth the investment of additional bunnies, no matter how you spin it. So refrain from getting portraits for Bushki. And that is gonna be the character Rubuska for you. How to play her in Bloodtithe, how to play her in Ultimate, how these teams will look like, and what the rotations are. I hope that video was fun and informative. If you like Reverse1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until next time, don't forget to join the Discord server, link in the description down below. Take care of yourselves, have a great day, and we love this game.